Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Instant Insight podcast after our holiday break. A global data strategic intelligence, we track over 100 tech, industry, ESG, and macro themes impacting all major sectors. I'm your host, Martina Raveni, and today I'm joined by three of our strategic intelligence analysts, Anness-Bradshaw, Xander, Hartley, and Sophie Gallagher, to discuss the risk of climate change in the industrial sectors and what different industries can actually do about it. I will start with Holly. Hi, Holly. Welcome back.
Hi, Marty. Lovely to be back.
Thank you so much for being here. And I would like to ask you first a general question. If you could give our listeners a brief introduction of what we mean by climate risk.
Yeah, so this year global data has shifted from looking at net zero strategies to looking at risk and resilience. With climate risk, we're focusing on 5 key risk factors involving ESG and their impact on the world. This is ranging from stuff like physical risks, so extreme weather events that damage resources and facilities, as well as ever-changing regulatory risks, where companies are having to disclose environmental compliance. This can lead to legal troubles if done incorrectly. These directly link to the other risks we've highlighted that are technology disruptions, market dynamics, and reputational risks. Companies could face all or a combination of these 5 risks in the wake of ESG and climate change. In order to be better prepared for these risks, we're advising companies to not only adopt net zero and decarbonisation strategies, but to focus on climate resilience.
And thinking about, because we focus this podcast on the industrial sector, what does climate resilience mean for the industrial sector?
With climate resilience, we're wanting to make sure companies and industries are prepared for climate risks and able to withstand them so that they can recover and continue to operate long into the future. For the industrial sector, companies working in industries like energy, mining, construction, and automotive manufacturing can invest in climate resilient infrastructures for factories and other physical assets. Industrial companies must also diversify supply chains, making sure you aren't reliant on a single country or member of your supply chain for resources or operations means that you are resilient if an extreme weather event damages operations.
Great, thanks so much, Holly, for the overview. Now, Xander, hi, I want to ask you about the automotive sector. You've been working on it, you've been in touch with the automotive team, and my first question for you is, what can you tell us about the climate risks facing this sector?
Sure, thanks, Marty. So the main climate risks facing the auto sector right now are regulatory and physical. In terms of regulation, the EU is set to become the carbon pricing capital. As of January 1st this year, the carbon border adjustment mechanism has entered its definitive phase. So for the first time, automakers will need to pay for the carbon footprint of imported steel and aluminium, while certificates for 2026 imports will not need to be purchased until next February. The financial liability is being accrued now, and those prices are tied to the EU emissions trading system average. Previously, EU automakers were only obliged to report these emissions, so they have to start paying now. As to the physical risks, the transition to electric vehicles has exposed instability in upstream supply chains for key battery materials like lithium. Water stress is becoming a major issue now. More than half of global lithium production is concentrated in high water stress regions like the Lithium Triangle in South America. And as EV adoption rises, this will just put increasing pressure on automakers to improve the resiliency of these supply chains.
Oh, that's a really good point, and I totally agree that, especially for EV, you mentioned key battery materials, you mentioned water stress. I think Sophie will talk about this later, but it's definitely a recurring challenge, and it affects from upstream. It in a way affected downstream manufacturing sectors, and of course, this is very important for the EV industry, and not just for lithium, I guess. Tell me if I'm wrong, but also from graphite, cobalt, nickel. There's a lot going on
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
And in terms of resilience strategies, what are doing the automotive companies to cope with this?
Sure, yeah. So we're seeing a lot of activity to diversify and localize upstream supply chains from automakers, especially in the electric vehicle space, where a lot of automakers are still dependent on China for the vast majority of their battery materials. So one example of an automaker kind of localizing their battery supply chain is General Motors. They're investing heavily in the Thacker Pass lithium mine in Nevada. alongside Lithium Americas and Orion Resource Partners. Once online, this mine could secure enough material for roughly 1 million electric vehicles per year. Another strategy that we're seeing is battery recycling. This is where battery resources are recovered from end-of-life batteries. As climate change makes it harder to access and purify metals like lithium, battery recycling could establish an alternative source to what will become an increasingly strained and precarious supply chain for mined metals. Our forecast indicates that passenger hybrid and battery electric vehicles will account for over half of overall vehicle sales in 2030. So it's really essential that automakers start following these strategies.
Absolutely. The one you mentioned about diversification, like I just know about the Tucker Pass lithium mine. That's really interesting because it's one of the largest known lithium deposit in the US. So diversification on one side, but recycling on the other side is another strategy also because the ore grade of the critical minerals is decreasing. Definitely the sector needs to do something about it, and these sound solid strategies. Hi Sophie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
You've been covering the mining sector for a while now. I wanted to ask you if you could tell us a bit more about the risks that the mining sector is facing in the wake of climate change.
Yes, so the climate risks to mining companies are very similar to those in the automotive industry. These again include physical and regulatory risks, with market dynamics also being heavily impacted. Physical risks are a prominent threat to mining operations. Mines are commonly located in areas exposed to extreme weather conditions. For example, mines in South America, such as Chile, or those in Central Asia and Australia, are exposed to droughts and temperatures rising. Cyclones, rising sea levels, and permafrost also plague common mining areas. These can lead to operational disruption, causing mine downtime. Regulatory risks include emissions trading systems, carbon taxing, and environmental protection laws, which may become more stringent. These are key strategies to reducing climate change, which, as previously stated, affects mining operations due to physical risks. These regulations will lead to an increase in costs for mining companies who may need to alter their operations. In terms of market dynamics, the effects of the energy transition is causing commodity demands to change, also fueled by the coal phase-outs. The effects of this are affecting critical mineral prices and causing market volatility.
You mentioned about the water stress, which is a really interesting topic. And interestingly, especially copper and lithium mines are typically found in water-stressed regions. So my next question is, what should mining companies do to tackle these risks and stay resilient for this issue, but also the other issues you just mentioned?
Yes, so there are numerous strategies mining companies can use throughout their value chain. Some examples include water stewardship and green energy integration. Water stewardship is key due to the droughts and water scarcity plaguing mining companies, especially in certain locations, as previously mentioned. This resilience strategy aims to reduce water use, find alternative methods that do not require water, recycle water, and use nature-based solutions. This will strengthen operational resilience in the face of worsening climate conditions. The second one, green energy integration, will help companies remain below emission caps and other regulatory changes. This can include building solar and wind farms for on-site integration or indirectly through power purchase agreements. The use of green energy complements the move to electric vehicles and equipment on mines, allowing them to be run by renewable sources.
Thanks so much, everyone. It was a great and very interesting chat. You can find out more about our reports and Intelligence Center content in the episode description. Thanks all for listening, and from us in Strategic Intelligence, see you next time.